Hi, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to go over with you the Imperial Stitch. So the Imperial Stitch is based at the ends on a brick stitch, which is going to get naturally degressive as we go. And then the sides here, when we link together, that is going to be based on square stitch. For this, we're using 3.8 millimeter or 3.3 millimeter cubes, or you can also use the 4 millimeter cubes. I'm using 11O seed beads, and you can use Swarovski crystals or any sort of 4 millimeter bead or 3 millimeter bead. To start, I've put a stop bead on .006 wildfire beading thread, and my 11O there is my stop bead. I've put a needle onto about 5 feet of that thread and one of my cubes onto it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by doing my first row here. To do that, I'm going to pick up 3 of my seed beads, 1 of my 4 millimeter, 3 more seed beads, and then another one of my cubes, and continue on with that pattern the whole length of your bracelet. You're going to leave about 1 inch at the end for yourself to put on that degressive brick stitch, which is going to go at the very, very end. So again, my pattern the whole length of my wrist is going to go cube 3 1 3, cube 3 1 3 of my 11 O's, and I'm going to continue that pattern the whole length of my wrist. When I get that pattern strung the whole length of my wrist, I want to make sure that just like I started with a cube, I want to end with a cube. What I'm going to do, I was going from left to right, now I'm going to go from right to left on the bracelet. To get my next cube in line when you're looking at the bracelet here, I'm going to put another cube next to the last cube that I put on. And this is where the square stitch comes in hand. If you're not sure on square stitch, you can go look at our other YouTube videos and check that out. I'm going to put my bead on. I'm going back through in a circular motion through the first cube in that 2 set of cubes. And when I pull tight, what's going to happen is that cube is going to sit right on top of the one before it. I'm going to give a nice tight pull to make sure that my whole line is nice and tight. And after I go through that first cube, I'm going to go through the second cube again, so that way my needle is going down towards the stop bead. Here's where I'm going to get that X pattern, and I'm going to share the 4 millimeter bead that I'm working on. I'm going to add 3 seed beads and share that 4 millimeter bead. And then to get my X, I'm going to do 3 more seed beads on the other side. So there go the 3. That creates my first little X. And 3 more. And just for your knowledge, the colors that I'm using, in case you're interested, are I'm using a mauve Ceylon in the 11O. I'm using the pearlized purple in a 4 and the silver lined Montana in the cube. When I get past those first 3 beads, join with that pearlized bead, and my 3 after that, I'm going to stick on a cube. To join the 2 cubes again, what I'm doing is square stitch. So I'm going through the cube that's below that I put on during the first rotation, doing the first row. I go through that cube with my needle going from left to right. Pull the thread the whole way through. Make sure that cube's sitting right on top. Go back through that cube again with my needle headed towards my stop bead. Pull nice and tight. And I'm going to continue on with my next X pattern. So I'm going to have you watch me do the next X pattern, and then we'll continue on a little bit. You can make this bracelet as wide or as narrow as you want. This here is just 2 wide. My sample here is going to be 6 wide. Again, 3 beads go on. I join with that same Czech glass bead. 3 more beads and my cube go on. So I'm going to put 3 more seed beads on. This bracelet uses a lot more seed beads than you realize. So you're going to get a full tube of both the 11 O's and a full tube of the cubes. Once that pattern is on with the 3, sharing the Czech glass bead, 3 in the cube, I'm going back to the previous cube from the last row, grabbing on, pulling my thread the whole way through so it sits right on top, and then I'm taking my needle again through that second cube and doing that square stitch rotation. That's going to make that nice and tight, and I'm going to continue doing that the whole way till I get to the very end of my bracelet, and then I'll show you how to add the third row. So as I finish my row here, I'm going to put my 3 beads on, just like I've been doing. Go through my Czech glass bead, put 3 more beads on, and add my cube. Circle back through the cube before it, and again doing that square stitch. When I'm coming out at the end of the bracelet then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my rows here on the side. To do that, I'm going to add 1 more of my cubes, square stitch this one on as well. So I just did a square stitch before, and I'm going to do another square stitch. Just kind of push that tail out of the way, and I'm square stitching this bead on, and then I'm going to go from the bottom of the bracelet, or the end of the bracelet, towards the start of the bracelet. When I start with this next row here, I'm going to start by putting on, again, my 3 beads, my 1 Czech glass bead, my 3 beads again, and a cube. After this, at the cube section, I'm going to do my square stitch, joining my cube rows together. And I'm going to continue that pattern the whole way for this third row, adding the 3, 1, 3, the cube, and square stitching that together. So I'm getting to the end of my row here of my third row. Again, my 3 seed beads go on, my Czech glass, my 3 seed beads. I'm going to put my 3rd cube on for this row, and then I'm circling back to square stitch through the cube before it. Pulling nice and tight, going back through this cube here, the last one added. Give it a nice little tight pull. And that's getting that 3rd row. To add the 4th row, I'm going to pick up another cube, square stitch that on, and then this is just going to be a repeat of row 2. So I'm sharing my Czech glass beads and going the whole way down in line. So again, all I'm doing is I'm picking up 3 of my 11 seed beads, sharing my Czech glass bead or my crystal, whatever you decide to use. Crystals make it shine pretty nicely. It just gives a different look with the different beads you pick. Going back and adding 3 more of my seed beads and 1 more of my cube. Square stitching it in line and continuing on. And this is how I'm going to get that 4th row. I'm going to continue on and make my bracelet here, this Imperial bracelet, 4 wide. When we get to the end of the row, I'll show you how we do this brick stitch at the end to make it nice and short off of our just ladder stitch basically down here at the bottom. So I've reached the end of my bracelet, and I'm going to show you how to do this brick stitch. So brick stitch is naturally a degressing stitch, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be grabbing these threads here, the thread bridges that are coming out of the ends of my cubes at the end of my bracelet. I'm going to put, whenever I do brick stitch, I'm starting off by putting on 2 beads at once. I'm skipping the first thread bridge, and I'm going to go to the second thread bridge. If you have trouble with this too, check out our other videos. We have some that are more descriptive to do this brick stitch. I've gone underneath the thread bridge, and I'm going to come back up through the second of my cube beads. That's going to make that second cube bead sit right on top of the ones below it. I put another bead on, sew through that last thread there, and then again back up through that same bead. So I started with 4 rows of my cubes. Now with the brick stitch, I've gotten to 3 beads because I'm getting, again, naturally degressive. Again, I'm going to start with 2 beads anytime I start a brick stitch row. I'm going to skip the first thread bridge and go to the second, going back up through that last bead. And that's going to create that little triangle effect at the end of my bracelet. You can, if you want, then add the last bead, just one, go underneath that last thread bridge, and come back up through that bead. But what's going to happen is, if you see here, you're going to see the thread on the side. Sometimes I'll do that, and if I don't want to see the thread, if I'm using a different color thread or I don't want to see it at all, I'll just end with 2. That's why you do 2 originally on the last piece. To get to the clasp then, I'm going to attach my clasp. So I'm just going to make sure that I reinforce this. I'm putting a jump ring on this side, I'm going back through my last little bead there after I put a jump ring onto my needle. I'm going to sew back through and up. So that way I'm going back through multiple times to my clasp. So I'm sewing through my beads here just in a round circle, pulling the thread. That way I won't see the thread much, and back down again. To do my brick stitch on the other side, if you can see here, I'm taking my needle down the whole little side there. And to get my thread onto the other side, what I'm going to do is go the whole way down my line, and I'm going to repeat this step on the other side. With that first original thread, what I can do is take the tail off, and I can knot that thread off somewhere. So again, all I'm going to do is go down the line with my needle. You can also add more thread on the other side. It's up to you, whichever way you want to do it. But you can go completely down the whole side of your project, sewing in and out till you get to the other side to do the brick stitch. So just repeating the brick on this side as well to show you, I'm going to add 2 beads at once, skip the first thread bridge, and go to the second thread bridge. Going back through that first bead there, or the second bead that you put on there, coming up towards the top, on goes the third bead, through the third thread bridge, and then up again through that same bead. So you're just attaching on to that little side thread, making a little loop and attaching on. Again, 2 more beads go on. Skip to the second thread bridge, and back up through that second bead, giving a nice tight pull. I'm going to put 1 more bead on so that it matches, even though my thread's going to show a little bit on the side. Go through that thread bridge, up through the top of the bead to make my nice little point here. I'm going to attach my lobster clasp, going through the loop, come back down through my beads, my first 2 there, my very end bead and the next one in line, and making a triangle with my thread. I'm going to circle around, go back through my loop and reinforce. Anytime I have a clasp, I want to make sure that I'm going back through it multiple times. I'm going to sew down along the line then, and I'm going to knot my thread off somewhere. And that's how you're going to get that Imperial bracelet and get that nice look of the Imperial. This one I did here was 4 rows wide. This one here is 6 rows wide. Again, you can use crystals, you can use Czech glass. There's a bunch of different techniques and things that you can use and styles that you can do. But this is the Imperial bracelet. Hopefully you guys get a chance to try this one out and use some different materials, get a couple different designs going. Check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel for some more ideas, and definitely try to get to one of our locations as well and take a class. So thanks a lot for watching.